I feel like I've taken 6 months off. Truly, there has been so much news. And I think you've probably heard a lot of it. And so I don't know that me covering the greatest hits right now is necessarily helpful. I don't know that me covering the LA protests and everything related to the ICE raids, the National Guard deployment, the Marine deployment, the detainment of Senator Alex Padilla, the detainment of the mayoral candidate in New York. There's a lot. And there are a lot of people talking about that. And because of that, so much gets swept under the rug, and we don't hear about it. We don't pay attention to it. But these things are still happening. And because these things are happening, I think they're still worth mentioning. So instead of doing a broad condemnation of the Gestapo roaming our streets, of the blatant lies about the Minnesota killer from the right, about the fucking war between Israel and Iran, talk about something you might have missed. So the CDC has what is called ACIP, ACIP, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. This is a body of experts in their fields, epidemiologists, scientists, medical doctors, public health experts. And what they do is they help provide recommendations about vaccination. They set up the vaccine schedules, they look at all the data around something, and then recommend whether or not that vaccine would be good, where it would be good, and what we should do with it. They hold a lot of sway because those vaccine advisories through CDC tend to be the things covered by health insurance. And people will get shots more readily if they are covered by their health insurance. A little over a week ago, RFK Jr. fired all of them. Every one of those experts removed. And he has now, bypassing the normal process, installed 8 of his own choices. As you can imagine, this is probably not good, but let's look at the specific people selected. First, we've got Dr. Joseph R. Ibelin. So this guy is pretty big in dietary health. He's been a part of NIH before. Overall, seems solid. It's maybe not the best choice for the vaccine advisory panel, but he's qualified generally. You've got, next up, Dr. Martin Koldruff. So he's a Swedish biostatistician. He's spent a lot of time at Hillsdale College, which is a conservative Christian private university. He is one of the anti-COVID general restriction people. He had a prominent and well-respected career generally until about 2020 when he started sort of falling into right-leaning institutions that were a little bit less based in fact. Had you asked me a decade ago if he was qualified, I'd have said yes. Had you asked me today, I'd say he has some views that may be problematic, but he does have a history of capability. Next up, we've got Dr. Retsef Levy. So this one I don't like. Got a PhD, but he does operations management. He has an undergrad math degree, but his PhD is in operations research. He's really more of a logistics person. He was a big anti-mRNA vaccine guy. A lot of social media posts about it, a lot of boisterousness about it. I don't like him for this pick at all. His qualifications are lacking, and he has a pretty big bias going in. You have Dr. Cody Meissner. He was formerly on ACIP. He's a pediatrician. He seems solid generally from what I've seen of him. There are some disagreements there around vaccines, but he doesn't seem like he would let that sort of influence him too much. I think he probably values vaccines generally. You've got Dr. Robert Malone. So he was actually a researcher who did a lot of work on early mRNA technology. He has been kind of pissy about the fact that he wasn't on the wave that gave us the mRNA vaccine for COVID. And he's been very vocal about that, and has even been very anti-COVID-19, anti-mRNA vaccine, largely, I think, because of that. He cited a lot of data that was at best questionable, and that is me being extremely charitable. You've got Dr. Michael A. Ross. So he is a doctor, but most of his work for the last, 35 years has really been as sort of like a business leader or an advisor in sort of health to companies. I believe he was the CEO of a corrective lens manufacturer. So seems like much more of a business guy who has a medical degree based on what he's done recently. But because of that, there's very little about him publicly, because being in charge of companies, he would have avoided general controversy. You've got Dr. James Pagano. So he's an emergency medical physician. Hasn't really publicly been an anti-vaxxer. He generally was more vocal about the fact that the ACA didn't get repealed and replaced, the Affordable Care Act didn't get repealed and replaced, but not really much on the vaccine stuff. Then you have Dr. Vicky Pepsworth, so PhD, but also an RN, chapter of Catholic, I think the head of the chapter of Catholic nurses for some division in the country. Vicky is a vaccine skeptic at the least. Now, this is actually more of a mixed bag than you generally expect from RFK, but I do think what happened here is that he ended up picking people who he had seen generally be anti-COVID vaccine. And I think he then had to rely on Jay Bhattacharya, head of NIH, to find other people. I think like half of these were recommendations, and half of these were things he knew, or people he knew. Hey, interrupting. After I made this video, I started to think about the things I said here, and I realized that I had gone far too easy on these people, on these choices. And I realized that what I was doing was rating RFK Jr.'s choices on a curve. Really, only 2 of these people are qualified to be on this committee. The other 6 he chose are not, even if they're medical doctors, and especially when they're not. The issue is that we're talking about people who need to be experts on vaccine science. We're talking about people who need to understand immunology, who need to understand the process of making vaccines, and who need to understand how those things affect the human body. I wouldn't trust a podiatrist to do general surgery on me, and I wouldn't trust a general surgeon to do brain surgery. And in that same fucking way, I realized I was too light on these people. So I'm breaking in now, just to remind you, despite the fact that I took a softer tone here, that was me fucking up. These people are bad. And the choices of them were bad. And they were motivated politically and cynically to be anti-vaccine choices. And that's what I wanted to add. That's the context I wanted to add. So with that, get back to the normal video. Thanks. So it's more of a mixed bag. Unfortunately, ACIP can't function without a quorum, which means they need at least 2 more members, I believe. And if he hasn't picked anyone, again, outside of the normal process, he shouldn't have done this the way he did. But if he hasn't picked anyone, they're going to have to sit 2 voting members who are just there temporarily from inside NIH or HHS. And I think the biggest thing, the concern I have, aside from some of the people on that list, is that RFK has said they were going to go back and look at other vaccines that had been previously approved. So ACIP's normal course of work is to evaluate new vaccines before being released, and if there are concerns about ones that exist, to evaluate those then. But he wants them to go back and look at the original vaccine schedule that children are on. And if there's enough sway, if there is enough willingness on that team to be anti-vaccine, they could alter the schedule. They could nix the recommendations altogether. And if they do that, certain insurance companies are unlikely to cover those vaccines. Doctors, overall, broadly, are still very likely to recommend them. But insurance companies are likely to not cover them, making them more expensive, making them less obtainable for Americans. And more to the point, people who are uninformed or unaware, this isn't good. They won't get them. They won't get them for their children. And part of the benefit from vaccines is herd immunity. The fact that if 8 out of 10 people in a room are all immune to something, then the last 2 people in the room who couldn't get the vaccine because they're too young, because they're immunocompromised, because they are a cancer patient, they have an autoimmune disease, whatever it happens to be, those people are safer, because if the virus can't get through the other 8 people, it won't go to them. There's less of a chance they catch it. And so those people will be at risk, at more risk. The children. And this is what fucking pisses me off about this. Those kids don't get a say. Their parents do. And even though you have the Supreme Court ruling that states can ban care for transgender minors, apparently parents can still let their kids die from diseases we have vaccines for. Because kids will die. We've seen this. We saw RFK Jr. oversee the death of children. Fucking, what was it, Samoa? People died because of his bullshit. If this goes south, more people will die. I don't know what to do about this, really. I mean, I think at this point, it's call your senator, call your representative, and hope. I'd love to be more hopeful, to be more helpful. I think truly, had we had Trump put anybody else in charge of HHS, we wouldn't be having this particular conversation. Because sane, well-reasoned, knowledgeable people understand that we die from diseases we have vaccines for at an infinitesimally small rate compared to what we did before we had them. If you went back during the fucking polio epidemics and told them there would be a day when we could eradicate that shit, they would have wept. People lined up for the fucking vaccine when we got it because they lived in a world without it. You and I haven't. We've lived in a world with that protection. We've all benefited from it. And these ideological fucking idiots like RFK Jr. seek to take that away. So when people say, oh, but he's getting the food dyes out of the foods, miss me with that fucking bullshit. I will take every fucking food dye in every fucking food over removing these vaccines that have saved millions of lives. This is why we don't need to equivocate. This is why we don't need to sit here and start every sentence hemming and hawing about, well, yeah, I agree with some of what RFK Jr. says. No, fuck that. When the overwhelming majority of what he is doing is bad and will hurt people, you do not have to give him credit. As a matter of fact, you do a disservice by giving him credit, because if you give him credit, he seems reasonable to people, and he shouldn't. The man is a menace. He is a danger. People will die under his watch because of his fucking vanity, because he thinks he knows something. It's disgusting, and it's wrong. So what can you do other than call your senators, call your congresspeople and hope. Well, you can look into the vaccine safety data yourself, publicly available. Link will be posted in the comment at this timestamp. You can tell people in your life who have kids that they should get them vaccinated. Try to explain to them that we have removed diseases that killed people, killed children who are extremely susceptible to most diseases by vaccinating. That people lined up around the block when these things came out to get them, to save the lives of their families. You can talk to these people and try to get them to understand this. I know it's difficult. I know it's fucked up. It is hard for me to express how upset these choices that get made at HHS make me. People get hurt. People will get hurt. And one of the things about scientific funding and research and health guidelines is that these are slow rolling boulders. We've got decades, century of work put into these things to solve these monumental problems. Try and build a better foundation for what we're going to do as a society moving forward, to provide for more knowledge and more research to let us be excellent in the world when it comes to this. And that boulder's rolling. And so we don't know when we'll see the stop or how bad it'll be when it happens. But it will stop if we stop pushing. And it's hard to see when scientific advancements and breakthroughs don't happen. You can't see something that didn't happen that would otherwise have happened. And some of our weirdest, most basic research leads to some of our greatest leaps forward. This is something that we're going to have to tackle. This is something that we're going to have to recover from, and it will not be easy. But it's important. It is extremely important. So, not great. Not great what's happening to the Vaccine Advisory Panel. It's not great what's happening to HHS generally, and it's not great what's happening to this country. I think it's up to all of us to make sure we're supporting the people around us, to make sure we're doing whatever we can, whenever we can, wherever we can. This is not a time where things get to be easy for us. This is not a time where we get to check out or walk away. This is a time when we have to be engaged, when we have to show up at protests, when we have to call and write, when we have to voice our opinions because they want so badly to silence and marginalize them. And we can't let that happen. So, know that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm going to stick in here and I'm going to keep doing this, maybe with a little less frequency as I switch every other week to doing videos that don't make me sad and depressed, except for next week's video, which will make me angry, but it'll be fine. Next week's video will be non-politics. It'll be about the worst movie I've ever seen, Jeepers Creepers 3. So, take care of yourselves, take care of others, and take heart from the fact that the largest single day of protests in United States history was No King's Day on the 14th. And know that that is just the fucking start of the pushback that this administration will see. Because I don't intend to quit, and I don't think you do either. See you out there.